What's so special about this Japanese-made car? How does a car that at one point looked like this earn a reputation as one of the most incredible race cars ever developed? For starters, let's get one thing straight. To auto enthusiasts around the world, the Nissan Skyline is more than just another car. It's an icon of Japanese automotive engineering, a symbol of innovation, and a testament to mankind's never-ending thirst for speed and power. In many cases, those men and women behind the wheel got a lot more than they bargained for. In 2001, the world watched as Brian O'Connor, played by Paull Walker, took on the world of Los Angeles street racing. Of all the cars he drove in the movie, none stuck out quite like his Nissan Skyline GT-R R34. In the years that followed, the Skyline would appear in 3 more Fast movies, as well as 2014's Need for Speed, where it was driven by Rami Malek, and even the animated movie Cars. While none of these films are exactly Oscar-worthy, they are undeniably popular. More importantly, they serve to introduce the legendary Nissan Skyline to a brand new generation. The story of the Nissan Skyline starts back in the late 1940s. That's when the Prince Motor Company was officially founded in Japan. Appropriately enough, Prince evolved out of the Tachikawa Aircraft Company, which had been instrumental in creating military aircraft before World War II came to a tragic end. From the beginning, Prince was focused on building luxury automobiles. Among the most famous of these were the Gloria and the Skyline. The first model Skyline, the ALSI 1 series, had a maximum speed of 87 miles per hour and featured a look that was nearly identical to the 1957 Chevy. It's important to note that the car's top speed was mostly the result of its 2,900-pound production weight. The engine, the GA30, had no shortage of power. Moving through the 1950s and early 60s, Prince continued to perfect the design of its flagship sedan. In 1961, they introduced the second of what would be 13 total generations of Skylines. This model, the S50, was as well designed for the racetrack as it was for the road. Indeed, Prince had begun dabbling in designing race cars, and the company's engineers apparently found the endeavor just as fulfilling as producing luxury cars, because they soon introduced the Skyline 2000 GT. The GT featured a 2.0-liter dual-overhead cam inline 6-cylinder engine with triple side draft Weber carburetors pumping around 127 horsepower through the sporty, lightweight design. In no time, the GT became a favorite among Japanese race car drivers who called it one of the best racing vehicles ever designed. Though this provided a lot of press for the Prince Motor Company, all was not well behind the scenes. By 1968, Prince had decided to merge with another Japanese motor company and take all of its designs, including the Skyline, with it. That company was, of course, Nissan. Whether they knew it or not, Nissan had just inherited a car with a huge following, tons of performance, and a powerful foothold on the blossoming Japanese GT racing industry. So, in 1968, often referred to as the year of the muscle car, the company introduced the first Nissan Skyline to bear the GT-R designation. The GT-R was a car that could compete with the likes of Ferrari and Porsche, but at a fraction of the price. In fact, the engineers took most of their inspiration from their American rivals. That meant fitting the Skyline with the most powerful engine possible at the time, while stripping out all the excess to reduce the car's weight. The GT-R has an S20 2.0-liter 4-valve inline 6-cylinder under the hood. This gave it a whopping 160 horsepower and 133 pounds-per-foot of torque. It was a genuine supercar, capable of reaching speeds of more than 150 miles per hour and more than capable of leaving its rivals in the dust. Of course, it wasn't just its performance that made the Skyline special. It was also the car's iconic design. Sleek and sexy, but aggressive and bold, the car quickly evolved into as much of a cultural icon as it was a racing icon. It was at this point in history that the Skyline earned the less-than-flattering nickname Hakosuka. Though it may sound intimidating, it's merely a combination of the Japanese words for box and skyline. While it would have been better to call it something far less literal, the Hakosuka GT-R nonetheless dominated the world of Japanese racing. In just a few years, the phrase, "the Skyline's only rival is the Skyline," would become as common at racetracks as checkered flags. The car smashed record after record as the iconic number 6, number 8, and number 15 helped numerous racing legends take the gold at Fuji Raceway. Perhaps the most notable of these was the 1971 Grand Prix tournament, when Takahashi Kunimitsu drove his number 6 so well that racing historians still study his moves today. It all begs the question, what makes a car more than just a car? What is it about the Hakosuka that made it so ferocious and formidable despite foregoing much of the pomp and posturing of its competitors? First, we have performance. Throughout its history, the Skyline has been available with powerful engines and advanced technologies that aided it in 3 key areas: acceleration, top speed, and handling. Next, we have the design of the car itself. Though each generation had its own unique features, they all had this perfect combination of sleek and solid that frankly wasn't anything like the other cars on the track. It really was, for lack of a better word, a racing box. Of course, you also have to factor in the incredible reputation of the Skyline, which has a history of racing success that continues to impress even today. Indeed, the car competed in several motorsport disciplines, including touring car racing, rally racing, and endurance racing. This conferred a sense of pop culture status that Japanese fans tend to really identify with. Eventually, the car stops being 4 wheels and an engine and starts becoming an icon. In the 1970s, the Skyline continued to evolve. However, global changes hindered the success of these cars in ways no engineer could have expected. In 1973, Nissan had to stop its production line and withdraw from all factory-sponsored racing activities due to the oil crisis. Indeed, the prevailing narrative was that racing and sports cars were a waste of resources. For a small country like Japan, the population's desire to watch the new Skyline compete had to take a back seat to more practical matters. In fact, it wasn't until the 1980s that Nissan began to put the power back into the GT-R. The R32 generation of the Skyline GT-R was introduced in 1988. It boasted all-wheel drive, 4-wheel steering, and the traditional GT-R dual overhead cam inline 6-cylinder engine, now turbocharged with up to 316 horsepower. This model won every touring car race it entered, claiming 50 wins in the Japanese N1 Taikou series, and earning the name Godzilla for its unprecedented dominance. Nissan continued to improve and revise the Skyline in order to keep up with the times. This brings us back to Paull Walker and his Fast and Furious GT-R. The car was featured again in the sequel, as well as in Tokyo Drift, which put Nissan back on the map among racing enthusiasts. On April 12, 2010, 225 Skylines took place in a Guinness Book of World Records event at Silverstone, UK. This event produced 2 world records: most recorded Skylines at one meeting, and most Skylines on a track at the same time. Nowadays, the Skyline is still in production, but predominantly identifies simply as the Nissan GT-R.